Alright, hi guys. This may be a surprise on this channel, or maybe you recognize this voice, but this is Gearshift, coming to you with an Amon deck profile that managed to make top 8. Reason why I played this, it's a very fun deck, at least in my opinion, and I actually planned on bringing Gastille to this event, but I saw we had like 25 to 30 minutes to do a game, so I wasn't very confident I can like drag it out and not get a double loss. Compared to Amon, where at least the way I built it, we have a really somewhat aggressive game plan here. So without further ado, we're gonna start with the main guy right here. So of course, we play 4 Amon. Now this guy, the magic number you have to keep up is 6. 6 as in the divisible number. So what you do is that you put 3 cards, each from your hand, the field, and the drop, into your soul, and your opponent has to put 6 cards, 2 each from their hand, drop, and field. If they fail to put 6, this gains an additional drive. Now for every 6 soul you have, this gains 10k on Vanguard and 5k on Irregular. And for every 6 cards in soul your opponent has, this gains an additional crit. Now, one of the fun reasons, I kind of explained why I play it, but another reason why I also play it is because I also played Yu-Gi-Oh! And this sounds like Trishula, for those who can recognize that reference, which is a banished 3 essentially. Next, you play one of the main reasons I play this deck. We play 2 Gastille. Now Gastille is a very strong finisher card, especially if you can get 20 soul, and you gain all these devastating killer effects. I'm not going to explain it here because it's kind of wordy, but just know it's a very strong finisher and you do have to get a draw at 1 counterblast. And Amon, as well as the support cards that are Ammen Followers, really help gain 20 soul, or at minimum 15 soul, on your second grade 3 turn, which sets up for this play very hard. Next, the last grade 3 we play is 2 Guiles. Now why do we play this? We play this because ideally you're going to soul charge a lot, and a lot of the cards you soul charge might be some really strong beaters, or maybe you want a boost because you already have another rear guard beater on the field. Because what happens a lot with this deck is that you will actually end up not having a lot of cards to call to swing on your Gastille turn, and sometimes even on your Amon turn. So this, with Counter Blast, will allow you to call a card from Soul and have the other beater, as well as it has the surprising effect of being able to retire rear guard when it swings on Vanguard, which does come up. Now moving on to the grade 2s. So we do play Ammen's follower Ron Gingling. This is essentially a soul charge 2. It's a soul charge 1 if your opponent chooses to put a card from their hand to soul, which will very rarely happen unless that blocks you from a key soul count breakpoint. When your opponent has 6 cards or more, very important because actually the physical card says 6 cards or less, but that was actually like a misprint in card effect. So this should actually say 6 cards or more, so make sure that you remember that. But when your opponent's soul has 6 cards or more, this gains an additional 10k power, as well as an additional 10k shield. So it's a 15k intercept or 15k shield from hand, as well as a 19k rear guard to swing with. Moving on, we are playing 4 Demonted Executioner. Now this is like a well-known grade 2, maybe you can say like the 3rd best grade 2, generically speaking, for Dark Irregular. It is a soul charge 3 with a possible draw 1. And we value that because we're trying to turbo out Gastille, and having the potential to plus is very helpful in this deck. There's also the 5k power it gets on the Vanguard. It will rarely come up. Usually it's going to come up if you go against Force Clan and you're going second. But that's the only time it comes up really. And for the last of the grade 2s, we're playing 2 Doppel Vampire. Now, why are we playing this? It's essentially a free resource. It's a card you can suck in with Amon, it's a card that you may or may not soul charge just naturally. But when it's soul, you can counterblast 1, and then you can put this card to your hand. So that's another card you can either A, pay it or suck up again, or B, just call to the rear guard and swing with when if you're lacking rear guards to call. As well, it does soul charge 1 in its swings, so it matters there. Moving on to the grade 1s, we play 4 Ammen Followers Guiles. Now, this is a very important piece of this deck, at least in my opinion, because all of its effects are essentially active on the field. Its first effect allows you to cycle through your cards. You put a card from your hand to soul, then you draw 1. Then your opponent must put a card from their hand to soul. And the funny part here is that they can draw 1, but that is optional. Now, this effect is devastating for some Peaceful Alliance decks, and it's part of the reason why some people may or may not have a hard time playing against this deck. It also has the additional effect that during the start of the battle, you can soul charge 1, gain 5. That's very important, especially for your Gastille turns, because that's an extra 5k shield you are asking them to provide when you're trying to swing for you. This is a card I value much more as a rear guard than the Vanguard, but if I see it, I will always try to keep it in hand along with another grade 1, just so I can call to the rear. Next, we play 4 Ironheart Assassin. The main reason I play this is that when you ride on it, it gets called to the rear guard. Now that's important because that means you have a rear guard on the field that you're going to suck back in with Amon, which helps your card economy a lot. As well as when it boosts or attacks, it will soul charge 1, so it just helps you gain ever so closer to that 20 soul charge you want. And then the next grade 3 play is the generic grade 3 searcher for Dark Irregular. Very easy to get its extra 5k online. Enough said about that. Now, because we really care about seeing certain grade 3s, we are playing 3 Alluring Succubus. It is a counterblast, but I think by now you may or may not have noticed that this deck doesn't have any crucial counterblasts. So you can actually, you rarely counterblast, so a lot of it's just for some utility effects such as Doppel, Demonted, the 2 other grade 3s, and Hero Learning. This allows me to peep 7, choose up to 1 grade 3 out of your hand, so usually Amon or Gastille. And then, as well as in addition to that, if I see another grade 3, or maybe that grade 3 I just want to filter out, I can put that other grade 3 into soul. Alright, that makes for the grade 1s, and then for the grade 0s, here's your Star Vanguard. Go ahead, pick whichever one you want from Dark Irregular. My starter of choice is Double and Shadow. Now then, on to the triggers. We play 2 of the Heal Guardian and 2 of just the standard heal trigger. Now I play this ratio because I'm very confident with the amount of grade 3 searches I have that I can dig for this when I need it, even if I don't see it in my hand. At the same time, be able to have the benefit of having 20k shield when it matters. Next, for the amount of crits, we play 2 crit triggers. Now, you may be questioning why I went 2. You will see in a moment. I will say I purposely chose 2 different crit triggers, just so I can maybe surprise the opponent about my crit trigger ratio, because it makes it look like I'm playing the standard 8 crit, 4 draw sentinels, and 4 heals triggers. So, with that, you can probably guess what's next. I am playing a total of 10 draw triggers. 4 of the sentinel, 3 of each draw trigger. Now why am I playing this? The whole game plan about the way I built this deck is to try to get to Gastille. And essentially all the crits I need is on Gastille. Because just naturally speaking, I can get my opponent to 3 damage and that's enough to kill Gastille in my next grade 3 turn. So what I valued more was trying to keep the card economy, because even though I'm technically plussing by ripping cards out of my opponent's hand with Amon, it's still a pretty costly effect, especially when you need some of the other rear guards to swing with for your Gastille turn. So having these draw triggers allows me to gain an additional card, as well as they're the perfect cards to pitch Suck and Soul with Fu or Amon. So that's why it's there. You gain some additional pluses. As well as there's actually sometimes when I get the 3 drive that I perfectly get 6 cards out of it, because I always trigger draw triggers. It does come up. Which is why I also have to mention that you do have to like measure your cards in deck, because there is good potential to deck out this deck, so you do have to make sure you keep track of that deck count, so when you swing your Vanguard you know whether or not you would deck out in these scenarios. But that's pretty much it for this deck profile. A bit non-standard as you can see, but overall I think I did very well with it. I did make a couple misplays, because that's why I mentioned deck out, because I did deck out, but that's mainly my fault. Overall, this is a fun deck that can make use of cards no one really expects, especially being able to make use of Gastille really early on in the game. So that's my Amon deck profile, and thank you for watching.